Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to episode number 10 of the second series of the Stevenage Football Club podcast, hosted by myself and Stevenage supporter Matt Farley, along with other Stevenage supporters discussing everything Stevenage, everything League Two, every week of the season. Now, quite a good podcast today. We've got a lot to discuss, obviously. We've had two games since the last podcast, and we're quite frankly coming up to a real crunching game for our Stevenage Football Club this Saturday. And the boys need a win. It's, to see boys back in the bottom two is very hard pill to swallow. With me, as ever, I've got the two gentlemen that are regulars, co-hosts the lot now. They've got that title under their name. Firstly, a big welcome back to Mr. Reece Donnelly. Reece, how are you, buddy?
Hello, Matt. Always a pleasure. I've kind of become numb to Stevenage failures now, so you know what? It's actually good.
Do you know what, right? We do.
I'm actually okay.
We've done this podcast nearly every week for the last over a year, and it's been I've enjoyed doing the podcast more this year because I've been really enthused about this new Stevenage team, and I see a lot of potential, and that was a different case. But it's the same thing in the sense where we come to a podcast and it's like, we've got no win, pressure's on the manager, pressure's on the club. It's like the same thing every week, isn't it?
Yeah, it feels like an ongoing cycle now, and there seems to be a tendency to blame in isolation, but everyone's at fault for this situation, and that is why we find ourselves here. It's one almighty car crash, but for some reason we're still strapped in and still driving.
Yeah, it's very frustrating, isn't it? It's just, I think that there's a lot of people to blame for the position that we're in, and I don't necessarily think the blame is being pointed in the right direction, in my opinion.
It's been
a lot of people are blaming the wrong people. Yeah, and I think a lot of people are blaming the wrong people for this situation. The people that are being blamed are actually the people that I don't necessarily blame for where our Stevenage is at this current time. But good to have you back on, buddy. How's your week been?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Surviving lockdown.
I know. 2 weeks to go, hopefully. 2 weeks to go.
Can't wait to see your face again, Matt.
Yeah, stay with you, buddy. Hopefully we'll be back in the Lamix soon. I see that they're talking about fans going in again. I don't know when that's going to be, but...
I would say fingers crossed, but I have to watch us in person.
Someone said to me the other day, I went on Twitter and I said, I can't wait to go in and see this Stevenage side. And they went, what? I couldn't think of anything worse. Like, fucking hell. Well, look, the Lamix is our happy place. All right, happy place, so... That's
currently in my view now. I'm looking at it as we speak.
Oh, you go past the Lamix?
I am.
Go on, the boy. Look at that beautiful new stand. Massive welcome back also to the other regular, Dan Keane. Dan, how you been, buddy?
Well, I've been all right. As Reece said, just surviving through lockdown, really. There's not really much else to say apart from dealing with Stevenage being as... damaging to our mental health as always, and just, lockdown as normal.
Yeah, well, do you know what? I haven't actually got my apple juice this week. Because,
how will you cope?
No, do you know what? I just was like, do you know what? I'm not going to have any apple juice today. I normally have my apple juice when I rant about Stevenage, but today, do you know what? I don't fancy it. I'm just going to stick with my water. I think the reason
you don't
why
want something stronger.
Well, I would put a little bit of alcohol in there if I could, but the water's there to hydrate me and calm me down. The apple juice got me a bit irate last week, so that's why we're off it this week, unfortunately. But good to have you back on, Dan. I'm sure we're going to have a good discussion today because there's a lot to discuss.
A lot to talk about, yeah.
Come on in, boys. Let's get into it. 2 games since the last pod now. Obviously, we went Saturday and we played Morecambe away. And we drew 1-1, fucking 4th draw away from home, still no win away from home. I thought overall it was a good point in the end. I think we said before the podcast it would be a good point. I was disappointed that we couldn't get that win, and when we went 1-0 up, that second goal would have really killed off the game and things looked positive, but we just switched off for 10 minutes at the end and come away with the point. Reece, I'll come to you first, buddy. You know, a lot of people after Saturday were again calling for a change at the football club, you know, in terms of the managerial setup and things like that. But although it being a reasonably good result for us away from home.
Yeah, it's one of those frustrating ones, isn't it? You take it before the game, but in the manner it happens, you're kind of just left feeling like a loss, to be perfectly honest. And it was such a silly mistake to make that's cost us, let's be real, with Southend and Scunthorpe winning 6 huge points. And well, for 70 minutes we were the better side, but if you're the better side for 70, 80 minutes, it still doesn't win you games. So I get the frustration, most certainly. I just feel sorry for Revs, to be honest. It's that simple. I just feel sorry for him. Everyone might turn, and this isn't because I love Revs and all this. This isn't his fault. The players need to take some ownership in terms of the chances we're missing, in terms of the silly mistakes we're making, because I genuinely, I've looked back through, I think it was 7 years of Football League stats, and I'm yet to find a worse conversion rate over 10 games. It's honestly ridiculous.
And you can't put that down to any sort of manager or whatever. Conversion rate's nothing to do with coaching staff, managerial setup.
This is my point. And I've said this to you boys off the record. Is if you go through a lot of our games this season, we've had a lot of clear-cut chances. It's been one of these things where we've had this poor conversion rate of 4.5%, but we've created no chances. That's the opposite. We have created a bundle of chances, and I'm in agreement with you, Reece. I think, look, we're going to talk about who to blame after we talk about these games, but I really don't look at Reds and think, you know, this is solely on you. You know, these players have got to step up, and I'm sorry, you know, Saturday, for example, at Morecambe, we get the goal and we go 1-0 up, and we do have a couple of other chances to take the lead. In a couple of areas are good at the pitch, and we didn't take them. And League Two is all about goals. We come into this league and we said, look, it's all about goals. Let's learn from last season and let's put the ball in the back of the net. And we still haven't done that. And because of that, we're now in the bottom two and we're not scoring any goals. So I'm in full agreement with you that, you know, these players have to step up. You know, we have to start putting the ball in the back of the net. It's simple.
Yeah, they have to take the game by the scruff of the neck, don't they? And you talk about this solely on Revs. I just don't blame Revs. I think what was good Saturday with the eye follow is you could see Revs throughout the game on the touchline, and he's screaming 75 minutes up in with the commentary. You could hear him over the commentary. Push up. We drop deeper and deeper back. Like, I don't know what to tell. Like, you're not following your manager and you drop deeper with 10 minutes to go, you're going to concede the goal.
Do you know what? I actually, I didn't disagree with anything that Reds did, actually, right? I thought the setup, I really like the way that he, you know, I've spoken about one of the main things that I think we need to start doing to kind of try and change our conversion rate is forming a few partnerships in the final third of the pitch. And I like the way that he started Remy and Danny Newton as a two up there together. I was really happy with that. It showed me that, he is taking things on board. You know, he is trying new things. I was really happy
the formation was brilliant.
I completely agree.
As you said, what cost us, and people who haven't watched the game will look at the stats and go, they had so many chances. They didn't. All of them were down Cummings' chest or crosses into the box, that kind of thing. And
ones that were just smashed over or half chances. They didn't have too many. I don't really think they had many clear-cut chances whatsoever.
As I said, till the 80th, and a silly mistake, and that happens with young goalkeepers, so I'm not going to go heavy on Cumming, but I'm struggling to see how people can look at Saturday, that watch Saturday's game, and go, right, Revs can't do anything more. I thought he was spot on.
Yeah, because the one thing that really impressed me about Saturday, and I was actually really happy with the point. I thought it was a really good point there. They're a tough side, and they're in the top 10. And I was really happy with the point for us at Stevenage. You know, we went 1-0 up. But what I was really happy about was tactically, we made it tough. He formed partnerships in the final third of the pitch, which I really liked, actually. I liked the combination of Remy Ote and Danny Newton. I thought that, look, for the first time, I saw a really good partnership there with them two. The way that we started the game and the way that those boys were getting into those final areas of the pitch looked really good. Remy obviously won his penalty and dispatched it, luckily, I say. But, look, it was still in the back of the net. I was really happy with the way that we got the goal and we made it tough and we battled. And I've spoken about trying to do that away from home, especially the game at Colchester where we haven't. We've been very easy to beat. But on Saturday, for the first time, tactically, I saw a team that can do well in this division. And I was really impressed with that. Again, look, the last 10 minutes, I don't know what it was. You know, I don't know if the boys just panicked and thought we were 1-0 up away from home and just switched off, or if they got tired. I don't really know what it was in the last 10 minutes. To be what happened to us, because I don't know what you thought, boys, but we kept giving away a lot of free kicks in the last 10 minutes. Did you notice that?
We seemed to panic. I guess that we thought, we haven't won in ages. We haven't not kept clean sheets. We have kept clean sheets, but I was saying we haven't won in ages. The last 10 minutes, we're under pressure. I'll just give away the foul and conceding the chance, and obviously that's inevitably where the goal ended up coming from.
Because I was screaming at the telly, going, "Don't give away silly fouls," because we were 1-0 up, 10 minutes to go. I know that we're probably on the back foot in the second half because they come on quite strong, but I was screaming at the telly. And as a player, the only two things that I can think for giving fouls away is, one, you get tired and you're late. I've done it when I played. You give away silly fouls because you're tired. Or two, you start to panic.
Decision making, yeah.
Yeah, you start to panic, and it must have been one of those two. And I'm certain it's not because the boys were tired. I'm certain of it. I'm certain it must have been because possibly we panicked a little bit in the last 10 minutes, maybe. I don't know. But, obviously disappointed that we still have no way. I mean, I think that's one of the stats that I'm not, entirely happy with, the fact that we've got no away winning. I think it's 7 away games now, isn't it?
That's not good enough.
Very disappointing. Obviously, I know that we played Tuesday night, and obviously we lost that on penalties the other night. Although it was a pretty good performance, I thought. Dan, what do you think? Tuesday night, played a second team. I thought it was a really good performance.
I thought we battled quite well, and considering obviously that they didn't exactly play an entirely second team. They had quite a strong lineup as well, and we had a lot of players coming back. We had Arthur coming back. Obviously, Jack Smith hasn't played in a few weeks. We haven't played a full 90 in a few weeks. We have had a few players coming back and a few players that wouldn't start usually. Obviously, Tyrone Marsh coming back from injury as well. I thought a 0-0 in 90 minutes against the League One side is quite good. Obviously, having seen the chances that we created, it's still, I can't just keep saying, I know I've said this almost every week for the last 8 months, but we creating a lot of chances and not converting. We can play well all we want, but obviously we can't if we don't finish off the chances, we're not clinical with our chances, then we're going to get nowhere. Then performances mean nothing whatsoever. Because one thing that obviously the one chance that did stand out, I think, for everyone was Femi's chance where it was through ball for Jack Smith, brilliant ball. He's taken it round the keeper, and I think he's tried to score the perfect finish, because obviously when you take it round the keeper, you see a lot of the time try and take it first time. But if I'm honest, he doesn't have to rush that. He's put himself, he obviously has taken it wide, but maybe he can just take one extra touch just to make sure he knows where the ball is, or just take one extra touch so he can get a decent strike on it. And obviously, unless he'll either take one hell of a miss or an incredible save for him not to score. It makes it so much easier just to take the touch. Sometimes you do need to take an extra touch. Obviously, sometimes you do need to go for it and extra touch, say on a one-on-one. But he'd always then if you take an extra touch, you'll be gathered by the keeper. But he'd taken the right touch out wide. He did everything right until obviously the finish, and
it was again. I thought it was
really.
I thought overall, it was a really good performance. I mean, we played a second team to start, but I thought, the football we played was positive, and I thought overall it was a good performance. Again, we should have scored again, but I think for me Tuesday was one of those things where obviously the money's big for the club, but I wouldn't have minded at the same time if we did go out, because I look at the league as really important now that we've dropped into the bottom two places, and obviously the FA Cup as well. So I wasn't that overly disappointed that we went out in the end. Obviously, to not score again is very disappointing. I mean, I looked at the stats in competitive football. I think we've only scored, 2 goals from open play since the Bradford game, and those open goals are 3 goals from open play, and those are the goals in the Football League Trophy against MK Dons and the FA Cup goal, which is just madness that we've only scored those goals competitively from open play in 90 minutes. Crazy stuff, absolute crazy stuff.
And we've got to think about what Bradford was. September, wasn't it? Or was it end of August?
It was end of September. Nearly 2 months ago.
It's just that panic thing again, isn't it, really? Yeah. It's just it's that thing, and now it's going to become a thing. Oh, we need to score from open play. Oh, we need to get the points. And it's only going to ramp up now. Because we're in the bottom 2, so well, I know we said October. It's time to show if you're good enough, and time to roll up your sleeves. But now it really is time for that.
Yeah,
time to show what you're made of and get on with it.
I was going to mention this. It's so disappointing to see our Stevenage back in the bottom 2 places. I think with this new Stevenage team as well, because I fully believe that this Stevenage team are a good side, but I think, we've been hindered the last couple of months. So it's very disappointing to see us in the bottom 2. With that, obviously, this Saturday we've got, a massive home game, really, isn't it? Now we've got Bolton at home. The first time we've played them as well. We've got to start winning games. We've got to. I've got the table here right now. 1 win in 12 league games. We're second bottom, 8 points from 36. We've got to start winning at home. Got to start winning the games. And I was going to say as well, it's very evident that away from home again, we're not going to have a very good away form. We've had 7 games now. We've drawn 4 games with no win. So for smaller clubs like us at Stevenage, we've got to pick up points at home. We've got to make the Lamex a bit of a fortress where we play with confidence and we pick up points. And that's our bread and butter to save the season. And I really look at these next 3 home games, Bolton, Port Vale and Southend, as games where we've got to get results from.
I think we have to take inspiration from Morecambe there and kind of Derek Adams' team in terms of no one, and I mean no one, wants to face the Derek Adams team. They're hard to play against. They're ugly. You're always in for a fight, almost like the Wesley teams. And Morecambe aren't all long ball anymore. They play some stuff. So, but they're still horrible to play against. And we saw that Saturday, to be fair. So
I agree with you. We've got to take some kind of learning habit from that, because look, I think every season, because us at Stevenage, we are a smaller football club in this division. Home form is just so important. If we can pick up points at home, when we do have those little bad results away from home, we can always use the home form to springboard us back into doing well again. And to have 1 win, 1 draw, 3 losses at home, that needs to improve. And I think really in terms of us saving our season at Stevenage, that the home form should be made a real priority, and we've got to start picking wins and points up at home to really save our season. Saturday, lads. Again, I've just mentioned it 2 minutes ago. Really important for us. Do you look at this game as the defining game for us in terms of if we don't win? Do you think things need a change at our Stevenage with all that's going on?
Well, it's difficult to say really, because I know we'll all say, well, obviously defend Revs, and obviously it's not because of any sort of agendas or saying, oh, we just love him as a manager, or even just saying he's a cult hero or whatever. That doesn't mean a thing. He is, I would say, obviously out of his depth, but he always was going to be. Which I didn't like. Yeah.
And any other opinions just wrong.
Yeah. I don't want him. I wouldn't entirely. Obviously, I'm not blaming him, but without another game without a win, it's got to be. I think there's got to be a big change, and not just managerial. Not just our manager either. We've got to be looking at coaching staff and see what they're actually doing at the club. So if something's going to change, it shouldn't just be the manager, and that's my opinion.
So are you saying if we don't win, we should have a complete clear out?
I'm not saying should. Well, I'm not saying. I don't know. I feel like we should. I don't. I'm honestly. I'm sorry. I'm a mess. I've got no idea.
I'm not most Stevenage.
Yeah, I'd say soon, but I don't know when is the right time to do it.
Personally, for me, I've been on board of this new project from the start, and I think we come into this season and it was like, we had a new blank canvas, and it was like, right, we've been given an absolute unbelievable chance to restart at Stevenage, and we've got Revs, let's start again. And in my opinion, I think he built a relatively good squad of players. I think we've got some real quality players at Stevenage.
You just did it there, didn't you? It's relatively good. I think we can tell what the issue is this season, and it's getting the ball in the back of the net. And which one have we cut costs on? The ones that put it in the back of the net.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm not sure that's right.
And this is what I was going to say. I've been on board the 16 competitive games, and obviously the friendlies as well, but the 16 competitive games we've played this season. I've been on board and I've seen a lot of good things. I have seen some good performances, and there have been some good results as well. However, I feel like this team would do very, very well with an experienced setup in charge. And I use this analogy of, when you've got an inexperienced manager with a relatively inexperienced team in terms of the players that are making the step up, it's a recipe for disaster, because both sets are learning. If you've got an experienced manager with an inexperienced team, or an inexperienced manager with an experienced team that have played together for a couple of years, those things can sort themselves out. But we're in a position where we've got inexperienced people looking after the team, with somewhat an inexperienced team on the pitch as well. A lot of known players, a lot of people making a step up. A lot
of people are just learning as they go along, and you can't really have that when you're in our position.
What's the average age of the side? I'm pretty sure we've got a young side.
One of the lowest. Yeah, one of the lowest in recent years.
And unfortunately, I look at that and I don't. Reece, I agree with what Reece said earlier. I don't blame the guys in charge. I don't blame Revs. And do you know what? I know that Mark's been here for a year, and I haven't seen really a lot of improvement with his team, but I don't necessarily blame Mark. I look more to the people that are higher up at the football club, and some of the footballing decisions that have been made are people that should be blamed for this. Because, if you actually think about it, right, and I thought about this earlier, when we came into the season, obviously at the time we didn't know what league we were in, and we went with Revs, and Revs finished last season, and I think we're all generally happy for that, because Revs is such a legend at the club. He's playing for the club, and we all know Revs. But when you actually look at it, it's criminal. Right? We came into this season, and it was like, if you look at it from the chairman and the board's perspective, we let a guy take control who's a very, very knowledgeable person in football, that has never managed a team at any level, really. And if you actually look at that in the division that we're in, it's quite criminal. It's quite criminal. And our club is probably one of the toughest jobs in the EFL. And when you put it like that, you almost want to ask these guys, what are you doing? It's criminal, isn't it, to do that? Surely maybe Rev's as assistant with an experienced manager there as well, that would have been fine. But to give that responsibility, and I've seen a few people say hung out to dry a little bit, and I do believe that. I think Revs has been hung out to dry a little bit with what's happened this season.
Yeah, that's just it, hasn't he? Phil has literally dropped him in the middle of the boat, in the middle of the sea, and is now could be about to shoot him when he's struggling to stay afloat. It's absolutely insane how we're looking at this, and I'm still yet to see proper blame towards those higher up. It's all on the amount of pressure Revs is under in the circumstances he's in. It truly blows my mind. If I agree with Farley to an extent where there probably does need to be an experienced man coming in, but Phil's not going to make that appointment, is he? That's just it. If I had faith Phil would bring in the correct appointment, then I would reluctantly maybe side with another loss or another couple of losses and it's time to go kind of thing. But Phil's not going to make that appointment. I mean, Darren Curry's been at some of our games. How is that progress?
Yeah, it's just like the same class.
The difference? Will someone please find me the difference between that Darren Curry would bring this team? Please, someone find it.
We've honestly got to look at like the managers that we've appointed pretty much since G. Wes's first thing. I'd say since Gary Smith, what manager have we had that's actually had any experience, any decent experience whatsoever since then? Exactly that. And not just experience, but not nostalgia. Like we appointed Graham Wesley out of nostalgia, and because I'd say that's the reason alone, because there is no other good reason why we would put him in charge.
This is it. And it's not just this season, is it? How many bloody times have we I remember Phil at the start of the season saying, we've learned from our mistakes. Well, we obviously haven't, because, there has been so many crappy footballing decisions made at our Stevenage Football Club over the last 5 years. You could even go longer. Some of the appointments
Phil's never been good at football decisions, has he? And now it's starting to catch up. That's all it is, because it's becoming more and more about footballing decisions. And now he's having to make decisions which elevate us rather than stabilise us.
Yeah,
he's never done that. Phil has never made a decision that's done that kind of thing. And it's happened over and over again. Yeah. We've left these managers hung out to dry. Teddy, I know we missed out on a few players, and it was all kind of put on Teddy. Oh, he's this bad manager. You shot him in the back when he's been hung out to dry. Same for Sarley. You signed him an under-23 team. That's what we had. So January that season.
This is what I really find difficult to understand. I know I agree with you. If you go on some of the managerial appointments that we've made over a few years have been absolutely criminal. And more to the point is we appoint these guys who haven't had a lot of experience in managing. And you mentioned your Teddy Sheringham's and your Darren Sarles and obviously Revs. And we appoint these managers and it's obviously very clear that, one, they don't really have massive control on who they're signing. I think that's been very evident, right? And two, it doesn't really seem like these blokes get the real support that they probably deserve. They get thrown into the hot seat and are expected to build an amazing Stevenage team, but they're not going to build an amazing Stevenage team that are going to be successful for many years because they're inexperienced. You
can't have everything for nothing, can you? And Dino's included in this as well. We know for a fact there's big players we missed out on, and there was decisions made which Dino didn't like very much. And I can't believe since Gary Smith, as we said, that we haven't really trusted a manager with signing his own players, and that to me is.
Or we haven't actually got a manager which wasn't out of not any sort of pity or nostalgia or because they'd play for us. Because all of our managers within the last few seasons, apart from obviously Mark Sampson for the 10 games last season, everyone else has been someone who's at the club or is in the club already. And obviously someone we wouldn't have to pay those for.
I mean, this is it, a year ago when it didn't work out with Dino and when, he had a choice of not keeping Mark on as manager, that was the point right there. That moment was the moment for Phil to finally go, you know what, we've tried these projects of appointing these managers with not a lot of experience in this division, and we've tried it and it's obviously not worked. It worked for a bit under Darren, but as we know with those guys, down the line when the leagues improve, it becomes very difficult. And that was the moment a year ago to appoint someone who was going to come in, who's had experience in the Football League and who would have probably sorted out a lot of the issues at the club. But what did he do? He brought back Graham Wesley. And for me, after that, I thought we were doomed. And obviously, we've got very lucky with the reprieve. We come into this season and it's like, right, we've been given this almighty, unbelievable chance again where we've been saved and we've been reprieved. We've got a reprieve. We're in League Two again for our 11th year in the Football League, 8th season in League Two. Right, learn from those mistakes and do it properly. And what did he do? He put Alex Ravel in charge. And I don't blame Alex, but if you look at it, it's criminal because he's only had a few games experience in charge. And
I still believe it would
learned.
have been a good decision and can be a good decision.
100%.
But he's got to... You can't put an inexperienced manager in charge and then go, here's a load of youngsters and no one who's experienced level. It's absolutely insane and criminal. And do you know why we choose these managers? It's so that Phil and Leon can bully them into thinking that's what they want.
And do you know what? Do you know what as well? We said it just off record. This division it's almost like an old League One. Right? The league has just improved, and the one thing that has massively gone up is money. And it's all about money in these divisions now. You've got to have a bit of money. And I look in the division, look who we're playing Saturday. Bolton Wanderers. They're in the Premier League, 10 years ago? Something like that? Look at who we're playing. Our little old Stevenage playing them, right? And it's all about money. And it is the one thing, and I understand that we're a small club and we struggle in that part. But you've got to be able to spend a bit of money to do well in this league. I don't know what's going on in terms of the investment side of things, but we really do need to look at, how we can spend money and what kind of investments that can we have on the football club that can help us with spending a bit of money to be competitive. Because, it's the same old every year, isn't it, with Stevenage? It's the same old. And we've got to keep up with the times,
We're not asking for mass investment, are we? It's
well
documented, our budget, when Dino got 70 points, that it was just below Morecambe and Macclesfield. We can say what we like, but Dino's done an extraordinary job to get that team to that point on that budget to where it got to. Look, it's about investing your money wisely as well. I mean, since January, I said off the record 5 strikers to you that we just missed out on, and I counted it the other day. They've scored 40 goals between them since then, and
got to spend money. Got to do it.
I think it's become pretty clear where this issue. We have a Football League defence most of the time. We have a Football League midfield, and we have a non-league strike force. And lo and behold, everything but our goal scoring is failing.
Yeah.
Shock horror. You've got to invest in the team. Darren had an under-23s team. Teddy, I'm really not sure what happened there, but I refuse to believe that those were all Teddy picks, because Teddy didn't know the level.
Well, this is it. We've got to spend. You make a really good point, Reece. This League Two is all about scoring goals, right? And if you go over the past and you have a look at the teams that have had goal scorers, I used Tranmere from a couple of years ago with Norwood. You can have an averagely good side, but if you've got a goal scorer, you'll do well. And we come into this season and we've signed a lot of strikers. On the top of my head, it's probably got to be probably the biggest amount of signings in the final third we've made, probably in the Football League, to be honest with you. And we come into it, and 4 of those boys are non-league strikers. And as we know, that takes time. You've got to pick the right players. And if you're not going to invest, we're not going to do well. You make the point. Defensively, we look fine. We've kept 12. We've conceded 12 goals in 12 games. We've conceded 4. We've got 4 or 5 clean sheets. The midfield looks great. We've signed Tom Pett, but it's always an issue of that final third, and it's always been a case of restricted budgets, and especially given a restricted budget to an inexperienced manager. I'm going to use the word criminal because it is criminal. If we've got an inexperienced manager, you've got to give them a budget. You've got to give them a budget. You can't say to them, "All right, this is what we've got. We have to really be restricted in this." You can't do that. It's criminal. It's not going to work.
I think Phil spoke about it in the summer with regards to transfers, and in terms of we have to invest differently and not into your Tom Saw's types. Well, yeah, but we've also got, let's be honest, a good squad, League Two squad. Probably has 4 strikers and 2 of real quality. We have 8. As much as Tom Pett's a good signing, I like him. It adds depth to the midfield. He's League One quality. Did we I can't imagine he's on a small wage. Could we not have sacrificed that money that was there for? It's about investing wisely. I mean, our recruitment has been abysmal now for years on end. How is our head of recruitment still in a job? This is no insult to the players, because, as we said, there are a lot of likeable players, but they're only going to thrive in certain environments, and certain players around them, and this project. And I just... if everything upstairs is messed up, everything below it's going to mess up, and we're taking the price for some really, really stupid decisions, and that probably goes from Wesley, getting rid of Wesley for Teddy, which I'm still not convinced was just a Barry Webber decision.
The one thing that seems to happen every season at our Stevenage is, and I said this off record to you boys, is the players that we sign, and this has been a common theme now for a good few years, that the players that we sign are either 3 categories, right? We either sign a player who's just been released or has left on their own consent in the division. So we'll either sign players of that cut and that cloth. We'll either sign players from the non-league who have done well in the non-league, and we pick them up. And this season, we could name loads of players who picked up the Huttons. Such a big list. So that's the category. And the third category is loan players. And those 3 categories, every team that we build over the last few years have been where we've found our players from. We've never been able to go and buy a couple of really good players. Now, I understand the club size and the financials don't let us do that. However, we've got to find a way in which we can be able to get a bit of investment where we can go and buy players like that. Because as we've seen the last couple of years, the money in League Two gets bigger and bigger and better every season. And this is a real problem that we really need to tackle. Don't get me wrong. The team we've got, unlike last year, I never really believed that team last year could stay up. Hand on heart, I'll say it right here, right now, never really believed we could do it. We just didn't have the quality. But this Stevenage team, I really believe we've got good enough players to stay up. I really believe that we've got a good enough squad to stay up. There's players in this team, Tom Petts, the Scott Cuthberts, the Charlie Carters. We've got a good enough team to stay up.
It's far better than last season. It's far better than last season. Because last season, I don't know whether I said this at the beginning or off record, but I said that the whole season, or even pre-season, I thought we'd struggle. I was never really positive at any one point in the season. Because pre-season we struggled to even score. What did we play? We played Maidenhead, was it? We struggled to score against them. We lost 1-0 against them. There was no positive signs. There were positive signs this season, and I get pre-seasons don't always matter, because from what I remember, when we got relegated out of League One, we had one of our best pre-seasons, and when we got promoted to League One, I think that we had one of our worst. So I know it doesn't always. I know it doesn't always mean much, but it's not. It wasn't just the results that were poor last season. Say if we played the way we played this season and lost, we played the way we did. This season and lost in last pre-season, I'd probably have a bit more hope. But it's just different. And I don't know. In some ways, it feels like it also doesn't. It kind of feels like this last season hasn't ended, because
this is it.
I know it's a completely new style, a completely new manager, somewhat of a different backroom staff. It's the same old, and
this is it, Dan.
I think
if we look at last year, there was quite a few games where we were beaten pretty convincingly, and there's so many games. But we've had 16. And do you know what? Let's throw in the pre-season games as well. Overall, this Stevenage team, including the pre-seasons and the cup games, we've had 19 matches, 19 games. And out of those 19 games, obviously the pre-season games we weren't at, we could see clips and we saw things and we read match reports. But to me, there's only two real games that stick out where we've been beaten pretty convincingly. And to me, those two games are the 2-0 loss against Leyton Orient at home, although we had chances to score in that game, and the away game at Colchester, again, where we were 1-1 in. But all the other games that we've played, cup, pre-season, league, big season, it's been fine margins. It's either been we've hit the post, or we've missed a really good chance, or we've made a silly error. They've been pretty competitive games. It's only two. And that's how I know that this team can turn it around. It's not like we're being beaten convincingly. We've been competitive in a lot of the games. But as Reece said, got to hit the back of the net. It is pointless.
Yeah, it means nothing unless, and it means literally nothing unless we score. That's as simple as you can't put it any more simple than that.
We can't see this as a manager issue, because it's happened throughout now. Same old manager, whole different set of players, and same people above. So you've changed the leadership. I can't see how people are looking at it going, if we keep twisting, it might work eventually. Well, we twisted the knife 3 times last year, and it didn't work once.
It did. Yeah. Excuse my language, but it did fuck all.
But was we great? No.
I'm still sure that if he stayed in charge, we wouldn't have finished where we were. If I'm perfectly honest, I feel like we would have stayed up. Actually, at that point, I know I said I wasn't positive at all, but when he had a few games in charge, I think he had 10 games, that's the only point where in parts of that where I actually felt like, we would struggle. We'd probably finish 21st, 22nd, but we'd stay up. And under any other manager we had that season, I really didn't have any hope whatsoever.
Yeah. You have to wonder what Mark would have done, A, without the court case and all his names and the headlines, and B, with the transfer window. I know there was a few different players he was looking at, but it's the same old thing, isn't it, for footballing decisions, and they've been made consistently now, and as Phil knows, we got lucky last year, but he still made many footballing errors, and we're back at that point again. So
yeah, I agree.
The only changes that I feel should be made are Phil looking at it and going, right, we need to fix ourselves up here. And Revs, you can't say I trust Revs and then not let him have control, because that clearly shows you don't trust them. I'm going to go back to Teddy again here. Do you think Teddy wanted Darren Tull on his staff? I don't think he did. I think that's been made in the interest of the long-term future of the football club. And when you have a coach who's a manager, there's always going to be a tad selfishness in there, and it's going to be confusing to the players. Look at Dino's coaching staff. I'm not completely defending Dino here, but you can kind of look at it. David Oldfield and Mark Sampson wanted to be managers long-term. That's confusing as well. And
look at Oldfield this season. Who's he with, and he's doing really well.
Oxford City, and
obviously they had the cup upset as well. And
well, this is it. I don't think
Donnelly never met Roger in his life. Another one. This managerial advisor system has not worked once. So why are we continuing to do it? Let the manager choose his assistant.
Let the manager be the manager.
Choose the players. It's not that ridiculous. If you don't trust them, get rid. That's
just saying, let the manager be the manager. Don't have conflicting.
I agree. I mean, for God's sake, it really does sound like that. The managers we appoint don't have full control on the side and what goes on. That's what it feels like, isn't it? I mean, all right, Reece.
Look back on our pods at the start of the season. We all talk about, I trust Revs to make good footballing decisions. Revs isn't making the decisions, is he? Okay, it's the lineup, and he might have had final say on a couple of players, but I can guarantee to you, the squad he has now is not the one he envisaged in the summer. This isn't a Revs team. We know this from everything he's saying, and everyone's going, I don't trust Revs to manage the team. Well, he might as well not be. He might as well have the title head coach. We might as well rebrand them head coach.
I mean, there's no, I agree with you, mate. I mean, there's a really quick, just before I come to our team for Saturday, and a quick discussion of League Two, and we'll get straight into the questions, because we've been doing it's quite nice just to kind of talk about our views with our Stevenage Football Club. Really quickly before I do that, it's really the only way, it's very difficult for me to kind of get it off my chest without reading it out. And I'm just going to read a really quick, it's only going to take me barely a minute, just to read out a post that I put online the other day. And it's the best that I can kind of get out of my system properly rather than trying to think of the words. So I'm just really going to quickly read it out. It'll be really quickly, boys. But this is what I said the other day. I said, after the reprieve and confirming our EFL status for another season, I expected Phil to appoint a manager, probably with the assistance of Alex Ravel. When it was made clear that Revs would be manager for the season, I did expect that this season would be tough. One would be where we'd be fighting tooth and nail to stay up. And if I'm completely honest, I didn't think we'd be in the top half. Revs has only had experience for how long now? 4 months. At the start of the season, it was only a couple of games. He's had to build a brand new team with a restricted budget without knowing what league we were going to be in. And you know what? I think he's actually done a good job in that aspect. Unlike last season, I actually believe this team is a good side. Defensively, we show really good stats. 12 goals conceded in 12 games and quite a few clean sheets. However, with a completely new group of players, there does seem to be similarities to last season, and we can't deny that. 2 goals in the last 9 games, both were from penalties, and only 2 wins competitively in 90 minutes all season. No away win and a conversion rate of 4.5%. Seeing us 23rd with 8 points is very concerning, and unfortunately, we've been pulled into this relegation battle early for another season. Why are there similarities? Possibly that there are people here with this team which were here last season. Again, do I blame Revs? No. I blame the people higher up for poor footballing decisions, not just this season, but seasons prior as well. I fully believe this team is good enough to keep us up the season under the knowledge and experience of people who are experienced in the league football. Where do we go from here? In my opinion, we've got to try and get a win Saturday. Home form is so important for us. It's the bread and butter of our season. If we can put points on the table at home, form a record with wins and play with confidence at the Lamix, we give ourselves a reasonably good chance to survive. 3 home games over the next month. Bolton, Port Vale and Southend, all really good chances to put some much needed points on the board and see us away from the bottom 2. If we don't win Saturday, I think possibly there will be changes.
That
so that's
comes out
really,
pretty perfectly, if I'm honest.
It's the only way I can get it off my chest is to read it off, really, because I'm terrible with trying to think of what to say on the spot. But
I don't think I could sum it up better than that. I think give us as good of idea as any.
Yeah, it's very disappointing. Reece, really quickly, I know that we've had a really good discussion there, and it's quite good that we've spoken about it, because I think all 3 of us really wanted to get stuff off our chest with what's happening at our Stevenage Football Club. Reece, team for Saturday, mate. Obviously, we come into this game, 23rd, 8 points, dying for a win just to get into double figures and get onto 11 points to provide a bit of confidence and a platform to kick on. What would be your team for Saturday, buddy?
It's an interesting one, but I'm going to make it very simple. Same team that we started against Morecambe.
Yeah.
As I said, for 80 minutes, that was exemplary for a team in 20 seconds trying to get out of the battle. Sensational. Okay, they need to do the extra 10. And I'm sure they've been doing work on that with Revs. I think the good thing is that team are clearly working hard for Revs and they care. I think Remy and Newts have quite a nice combo going on. Newts as the target man, that's what Rev sees him as, which is certainly something very interesting. Vincelot and Reed, superb combination. Brilliant. They have everything. Carter and Pett are good because they can switch, they can swap, they can go in the middle. They've both had experiences as attacking midfielders. I quite like that. So it's kind of quite a narrow diamond, isn't it? Like when Dino put Amos on the wing when he first took over. And then I liked the back 4. I thought that was a brilliant back 4 and complemented each other perfectly. I do want to mention Romeo Hutton, who kind of left the side and then come back. And for me, has put in 2 huge performances. Is my man of the match against Morecambe by a mile, and then again against Nicky Adams on Tuesday night. So I think that's a strong enough team and good enough to handle the very experienced Bolton side.
Yeah, I like that, mate. No, I like that team. And I also love it when you went, it's huge. It's huge. That's what I think the podcast should be called. Huge podcast. I love that, mate. Love that. Dan, what's your team, buddy?
I don't want to be boring, but I'd probably go with the same thing as well because...
Stop nicking my answers.
It's just Newts. Obviously, it was a big shout keeping him in after he scored against. After he scored in the FA Cup, I'd say it was obviously ended up being a correct choice. I know he obviously wasn't like a world beater, but you can't really expect much when we created very little chances. I thought him and Ote did work quite well. They worked well off each other. Both created space off each other. I thought Newts worked well when we were trying to counter-attack. He did try and drive us forward a few times. I did see he got fouled, which I'd say probably would have led to some decent chances, if I'm perfectly honest. So I don't have any problems with sticking with how we set up last week.
Yeah, mate. No, sounds good. And to be honest, my team is again exactly the same. for the first time this season, I almost feel like Revs has almost just about found his strongest starting team there. So for me, I'd play exactly the same team. I thought the back four were great. I agree with what you both said about Romeo Hutton. I liked Romeo before he went off the scene for a few games. I thought he was playing really well, and I thought his performance was good. I was impressed with the back four. Midfield with Pex, Reed, Charlie Carter. You know, there's some quality players and there's real creativity in that middle of the pitch, and I really like the blend that we've got in there. And I really like the way that he formed the partnership up top with Newt and Remy Ote. I thought we looked very good going forward with those two. And I liked what I saw. So I would definitely start the same team and see if we can build a bit of a platform with the starting team, get a run of games under our belt and hopefully get some good results where we can hopefully kick off from. So really good to discuss that. And interesting that we've gone for exactly the same team as well, which is pretty cool. Now, obviously, League Two, we know our position in the division's 23rd with 8 points. We're going to go straight into the questions, boys, because we've got quite a few questions this afternoon.
We don't want to talk about League Two. It's scary.
It's pointless, isn't it? We're second bottom. We all know the position. So we might as well go into the questions. We've got to be honest. Again, we've got quite a few questions. I'm going to throw them in there. We can answer them one off. We can answer them off one by one if we want to, or however we want to do. First question is come from Callum Emerson. Callum has asked, what do you think is the biggest problem at the club and why?
Well, we covered it in the C.
Extensively.
We have, haven't we? Footballing decisions. 2 words.
Let the manager be a manager. Let Revs do what Revs wants. It's quite simple.
Yeah.
Poor football decisions are catching up on us. Poor recruitment is catching up on us. It is upstairs decisions. So let the manager be a manager. Yeah. Let the manager choose the coaching staff that suits him. Let him sign the players he wants, and then we can evaluate if he's good enough. But if you don't trust them, then don't appoint them. Yeah, and that's gone from Teddy downwards, really, hasn't it? It's the exact same for Teddy, Saul, Dino, Sampson, Wesley the Fourth, and of course Revs. So I can't believe he hasn't learned his lesson.
I think for me, I think the message that I would say and what I would suggest is, just be sensible and just make sensible decisions. Understand that we're a smaller club and having an inexperienced manager in charge of a brand new team, we're not going to be setting the world alight. So appoint people that are going to help and support the manager properly. And if that's not the case, appoint experienced people for the job. Look, listen, we're a professional football club. Appoint people that are fit to, when you put a job advertisement out for just an ordinary job, right? So say, for example, you advertisement out. And do you know what? I'm going to use this analogy as a personal trainer, right? Because I'm a personal trainer. Who do you appoint? Would you appoint someone with no experience who hasn't really done personal training before? Would you appoint someone that's experienced and has done the job before? You'd always appoint that person who has done the job and has got the experience before. If you appoint someone who hasn't really done it before, then you put people in place, coaching staff around that person who are experienced to help that person. You don't just leave that person there out in the cold, do you? Hung out to dry.
It doesn't take a genius to figure out that Lenny was not Rev's choice.
Obviously.
Lenny clearly does not suit what Revs wants to do. If you don't trust the manager, don't appoint them. It's that simple. And let the manager be a manager.
Yeah, for God's sake. Second question, this comes from Nick. Nick has asked, has there been a slower defensive partnership than Luke Prosser and Scott Cuthbert? Well, I think last year, isn't it?
Yep, last year.
Got to be, isn't it? Surely.
I don't know. A foot race between Nuge and Prosser is something I'd watch.
Saying that, hang on a sec. What about Jamie McComb and Lee Hughes?
Mark
Oh,
Hughes.
God.
Oh, my
Sorry,
Oh,
Mark
yeah.
Hughes. They were cart horses, fellas. I actually think they were worse. So,
They were slow. Mark Hughes wasn't slow. He was just stupid.
he just didn't have a head on him. I still can't believe he got promoted with Accrington.
Still playing.
No, I saw he was one of their. I saw he was one of their better players, and he played. Pretty sure he played at fullback for them as well.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Season.
Yeah, but I'd say no. I don't think Scott and Pross are the slowest we've had. I think they're slower, but
They're up
all
there.
agreed that should be Marshall and Cuthbert going forward. Yeah.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I like Marshall. I think Marshall should be playing every game. Next question. This comes from Matt. Matt has asked, how much time would you give the manager?
Dan, given you were confused, you can take this one.
Yeah, go on,
Okay,
Matt.
thank you. How long do we give him? It was how long do we give him in it? I've got no idea. Thank you for making me answer this.
Don't worry, we don't have enough. That's why we palmed it off.
I know. We did say December before, and I'd probably still stick with that. I know it's not Rev's. I know it's not Rev's fault, all that lot, but certainly it's got to change. And if anything else isn't going to change, then that will. Then nothing else can change like that. We can't sign loads of players. We can't do it. We can't completely. Obviously, can't change the manager. We can't change the upstairs. I think that's got. I'll say December.
I think for me, I would see how these few home matches go, because these home matches that we've got coming up, and the next four really, even when our Stevenage play Walsall away, the next four league games are all winnable games. There's a lot of points to be won here. If you actually look at the fixtures, December and the Christmas period is a very tough period. We're playing a lot of good sides. So the next four games are a real opportunity for us to get some points in the bag and play a bit of catch up. But for me, I wouldn't fire Revs regardless. I feel like Revs is going to be a really successful person in football, and I feel that
feels like the right man at the wrong time.
Yeah. And I feel like if it doesn't work out, I think if Phil Wallace brought in a good manager, which dear me, I mean we can never really speculate. We never really speculate. If he did bring in someone like that, I would like to see Revs almost as an assistant, someone that is learning from the manager. And also, I think that's
the grading. It's like when we offered Saul the youth job back. It's the grading, isn't it?
Yeah, true.
And you've just, as we said, he's been hung out to dry. Why would you want to carry on working after you've been shot by someone who's hung you out to dry?
Obviously, that's Revs' decision, but I think in terms of the team, he was the one that brought these players to the club, and I think it would be a shame if Revs was really kicked out of the club that way. I'd like to see Revs still hung on to, because I really see a potential in a bloke there that can do a really good job in the future.
I think we've kind of circled the Southend game, haven't we, as a game where we have to go,
got to win.
That has to be a win. So I think if he loses that, then we're talking about his job. But as I've said, I'd make the decisions in place for January, so Revs can get what he feels he needs and wants and needs to do. I'd look at the coaching staff. Does he want them? If he don't, thank you for your service. Goodbye. I would look at the things around him before I look at Revs. But as we said, we've got to start winning games. We've got to start scoring goals. And I think the Southend game is the one I have circled. But a lot of people think it might be Saturday.
I can understand why. For me, it was
Curry in the wings watching. I can imagine it's in the back of Phil's mind.
For me, I thought it was going to be this Saturday, but looking at the fixtures, the next three home matches are really important. Again, that Southend home match we've got to win that, and again, all the next four games are very winnable. So I'd like to see how we get in those games, but there might be suggestions in place already. We've got 3 questions left. This is a bit of a funny one. Balders has asked, if you were Mark Sampson, would you buy a day return rail ticket a weekly or a monthly ticket, or would you just bunk it?
I wouldn't buy a return.
I wouldn't buy a return. I'd say bunk
single.
it. Bunk it. Train prices are extortionate. Why would you pay?
Are you saying people should break the law?
Are you promoting breaking the law, Farley?
No, I'm not saying anything. But if Mark wants to bunk it, I'm fully behind him.
I hope he wears a mask.
Yeah, hopefully, as long as he's got a mask on, then that's all that matters. 2 more to go, fellas. Sam Cretin has asked, how do you think the season will go from now? Tough one to answer that.
Impossible question, that.
Oh my God, yeah. Stay up, survive. I'd like to think.
Yes. How do you think it will go? Well, in the nice way possible. Fuck knows.
I'd say I think we'll stay up. I think look, with what happens with this manager set up and whatnot, I still think we've got quality to stay up. Unlike last year, I think we'll find a way.
I think Revs will be shot in the back and sacked. I think we will appoint a manager, and I don't think he'll be able to turn it around because he doesn't get the players he wants or doesn't have the players he wants. So, I hope I'm wrong, but I think Phil will be making the same mistake as last year.
Yeah, it could come out like that. Last question comes from Luis Fernandez, his dad. Tony.
What a man.
What a guy. Sent us a question. Very active for the podcast, Tony is. Tony has asked, how do we get out of this rut? It's a follow-on from last season. We need to get a settled side and keep with it to get points on the board. Changing every game doesn't help, in my opinion.
You can take that down.
Sorry, repeat that again.
So
it was quite a long one.
Basically, the question is, how do we get out of this rut that we're in, basically?
Oh, that's almost an impossible question. Because I don't want to say that Rev should leave or whatever, but I feel like a change in backroom staff, not just Revs, but a few, even Lenny, because I've got no idea what he does. And as much as I love him, I'd say we've got to get rid of the managerial mindsets in that. So I'd say possibly get rid of Sampson. As much as I'd want him to do well, want him to succeed, but it's obviously nothing personal. But we've got to have one manager and have one manager. We can't have someone whispering in his ear constantly. I have no doubt in, say, Mark Sampson as a manager, because I feel like last season obviously he did all right, and obviously with the women's team he's more than proved that he's good enough as a manager. But as an assistant, I feel like we need to have one person who's a set manager, and who that will be, I've got no idea. But I feel like obviously, as I said, not much else can change. So I feel like we need one manager and assistants. We can't have multiple head, as Reece said, we might as well call them head coaches. Can't call them all head coaches. We can't have loads of those sort of personalities in there. As much as I don't doubt their abilities, I don't think it's the right setup for us at the moment.
I think that brings up an interesting point with Lenny, doesn't he? Once again, you could see the bench for the Morecambe game, and he's coming down after 40 minutes, having a word with Revs and disappearing. Mate, we're trying to win games of football. What are you doing?
Yeah.
If there's something that's gotten 10 minutes in, go down there and tell him. This seems to be, let's grow Revs. No, let's win games of football here. And we all highly respect Mark, lovely bloke. But if Revs really doesn't want him there, then he shouldn't be there. We don't know. Revs might want Mark. But in something clearly isn't right there. So that's probably a change that has to be made if Revs is to succeed. And I think Tony's other point is valid. We need a consistent starting 11 and formation, because as we've alluded to on this podcast, the team has talent. So squeeze everything you can out of the team, and then it's down to Phil to make the decisions higher up.
Yeah, I agree. I think really for me to get out of this rut, obviously winning matches, obviously, but I think the setup, I think there needs to be some sort of a change in the setup, whether we bring in someone or bring in a couple of people. I think there needs to be some sort of change. I'd love to keep, Revs. I'd love to keep Revs on board, but I'm not sure if that's going to be the case with the chairman or Revs either. But I definitely think that if we do not get a result Saturday, I think that something has to happen, because we've been pulled into this relegation fight once again. We know what it's like down the bottom of the table. It's almost like stuck in the mud. We get popped there, and the next minute the gap's really extended from ourselves just to 17th or 16th. So I definitely think the change in the setup soon needs to happen for us to get out of this rut. I think the players are good enough to stay up. I really believe in this new Stevenage team, and we'll have to wait and see how we get on Saturday for us to have a clear, honest view on it, I believe. But no, thank you to
God, we should be the managers for stuff like that.
Well, give us a job. I'll do it for free. Just as long as Stevenage wins, you know what I mean? My God. But, we've got to somehow, another thing, just before we sign off, that I've got to say is and I said this at the start of the podcast, and it seemed like we had adopted it, but winning habit, winning mentality, we've got to get that back at Stevenage Football Club. We've lost that again, and it's something that we've really haven't had for a few years now. Winning habit, winning mentality, we've got to get that back, and we've got to start implementing that, because that's what once made this club great. We can beat anyone, and we've got to try and adopt that with this new team. And if we can do that, I'm certain that we can stay up. But it's going to be a tough road. We always knew that.
It's always rough with Stevenage.
Always rough, mate. But look, thanks to all the people for sending their questions. We've run out of time. Fellas, did you enjoy that today?
Always love it.
I did. It's always great fun to rant and actually have people willingly listen to it, and not just me talking to myself.
Well, Stevenage Football Club is our passion, and we all love Stevenage Football Club. And another thing, hopefully we can get back into it. I know the government are talking about getting fans in, but we'll have to wait till the lockdown. But look,
hope our Vietnam listeners have enjoyed today.
And Indian and Oman and all across the listeners. Well, thank you to the listeners for listening to today's podcast. Hopefully you've enjoyed it as much as we have, talking about our Stevenage and ranting about our Stevenage Football Club. We'll be back next week for episode number 11, and hopefully we'll be talking at least a win from our home matches against Bolton and Port Vale, and we'll be doing the build-up to our FA Cup on the Sunday. Very exciting. So, and I think we'll have a bit more of a clearer view of what's going to happen this season as well. But thanks to the boys. Thank you, boys, for joining me as well today. Really good fun. We'll be back next week, and hopefully we'll have a lot clearer on what's going to happen at our Stevenage Football Club. Thank you to everyone. You have been listening to the Stevenage Football Club podcast.